All right. Good evening, everybody, and happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. My name is Aminta Kilawan Narain, and I am the founder and executive director of the amazing South Queens Women's March. We are a movement building, gender justice, grassroots, hyperlocal nonprofit organization in the heart of South Queens, our office located in South Richmond Hill. And we do so many things at South Queens Women's March to promote healing and wellness and equity and smashing the patriarchy and all the things from food pantries and period poverty distributions to youth and professional development workshops to civic engagement and building political power to art healing and to wellness and to curbing gender-based violence. So tonight we're here because cooking can be a form of fostering healing and wellness. A lot of times people eat certain foods to physically or emotionally feel better, but there's also other people who use cooking as an opportunity to find comfort and solace in their kitchen. I know myself personally, when I'm chopping things in the kitchen, I don't really listen to music. I just like listening to the sound of like crisp things chopping up. I promise I'm not super weird, but maybe I am. But it's just I think it's a really healing opportunity for us to be able to just be one with whatever it is that we're creating. And tonight we are fostering just that. I know that there is a movement of a lot of folks who promote art therapy and music therapy, but there's also people that use cooking to relieve depression and anxiety. And so tonight we are here, we are excited. We have an amazing facilitator who we're so honored is going to be leading this workshop, a roti making workshop. And we know so many people have registered who are probably going to be trickling in over the course of time throughout tonight. We hope you have your ingredients ready. We did provide the ingredients in the email, so hope everybody has what they need. Pretty simple. And just a little bit about our amazing facilitator, Matthew Allicock. Matthew started his YouTube channel, Matthew's Guyanese Cooking, when he was 17 years old, and he's been making videos ever since. He grew up watching great chefs in his family cooking, like many of us, including his grandmother, and he always knew he wanted to share his family's recipes on the internet. Matthew, interestingly, is an aspiring doctor and has tried to keep his channel going in spite of being in medical school, which is a heavy lift in of itself. So kudos to you, Matthew, for doing that, for being able to balance all the things that you do, and for giving us your time tonight. We're super thrilled. I also want to shout out Bihari Lal from Giddo Farmers, who provided some of the ingredients to community members who wanted to stop by our office this past week. So we're grateful for that as well. So without further ado, again, thank you all so much for joining us on behalf of South Queens Women's March. I also want to encourage you to take some selfies if you want to, and you can email them to us so we can, kind of flaunt what we learned tonight if you so desire to do that. And I'll put our email in the chat so you can send it over if you want to. But other than that, I'll stop talking and we'll get to work with Matthew. So over now to Matthew.
Hi, everyone. I just want to thank Aminta for reaching out to me to put together this roti tutorial for you guys. I'm very happy that all of you guys joined and you guys want to learn too and see how I put it together. And thanks to the people who were sponsoring any ingredients that you guys picked up. And I believe this is being recorded for you all. So if somebody missed it today, you guys can check it out. I'm going to try to post it on my channel when it's recorded. So there'll be some ways you can catch up if somebody's missed it. So if you guys are ready, we can go through all of the ingredients. And you guys feel free to chime in at any time. Just unmute. You don't have to put on your camera if you don't want to, but chime in at any time. So is everybody ready to get started? Thumbs up. All right. So can you guys see my screen like at the bottom, what I have on the counter, or do I need to adjust a little bit?
Yeah, adjust it a little bit. We can't really see. I only can see the top of the bowl.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to lower it a little.
All right. Yep,
better?
I can see it. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right.
All right. Okay, you can still see me. So in the bowl here, our main ingredient, we've got the flour, and I'm using regular all-purpose flour here. As I mentioned in the recipe, it was 2 cups of the all-purpose flour, and I have some more all-purpose flour here just on the side, so when we roll the roti, it's not sticking. And I also have my oil because we are making oil roti today, so this is one of the main ingredients. This is going to go inside and for when we're cooking it. And you can either use your hands to oil it when we're rolling it, or you can use a brush. Same goes for when we are putting it on the stove. You can use a brush, or you could use the bottom of like a cup, or you can use a paper towel as well. And I have some water. This is just regular lukewarm water. It doesn't have to be hot or cold, nothing like that. And I've got some salt, just a little pinch, and I've got my baking powder as well. So if anybody needs me to like repeat measurements or anything like that, feel free to let me know.
What's the measurement for the water?
So the water, I've got a lot of water in here, just under like 2 cups, but we're not going to be using this. I'm just going to be adding in a little bit at a time, and I'll show towards the end like how much I used. So just start off with a good amount, I guess, and then we'll go with it and see how much you end up using. I'll give you guys a few seconds to adjust and measure out your things if you need to.
Yeah, how many servings is this creating?
So this is going to make 4 pretty good sized roti. If you have like a big pan or tawa and you wanted to make like 3 extra big ones, or you can make 5 like really small ones, it's up to you, but I'm making 4 today.
Okay, is it can you go through the measurements just one more time, please?
Yeah, no problem. So 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and for the baking powder, I'm using 1/4 teaspoon. And for the salt, it's just a pinch of salt. If you're measuring it, it's about 1/8 teaspoon. And for like extra flour, I've just got like an extra handful of flour in here to roll out my roti and oil it. And same goes with the oil. I've got maybe like a 1/2 cup of oil here, but it's such a little bit amount of roti that we're making, we're not going to need all of it. And of course, the water as well. I have about 2 cups, but we're not going to be using nearly 2 cups. I just have that to show you guys how much we end up using.
I have a question. For some of us, if we are we able to like cut the recipe in half? Like, let's say if we don't want 4 roti, but we want to do 2, is it possible to just use a cup of flour and then adjust according to what you're saying for all the different other ingredients?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
so like
okay.
a cup of flour, extra small pinch of salt, and the baking powder, it's 1/8 teaspoon at that point.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So like I said, before I get started, if you want to unmute and ask questions along the way, feel free to. But we're gonna start mixing now. So if you guys need me to adjust the camera at any point, let me know as well. All right, so the first thing we got to do, make sure your hands are washed. My hands are washed. If you're cooking this for your home or whatever, just make sure your hands are washed. So in my bowl, the all-purpose flour, and I'm gonna go in with the baking powder now. And we're not making sada roti, which is the other kind of roti that everybody likes. That's like that fluffy bread-like one. And for that one, obviously you need a lot of baking powder. This one, very minimal baking powder. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people end up making when they make oil roti. They think like the more baking powder you add, the more the roti will like rise or like swell up on the stove. But it makes it more of like a bread texture, and it doesn't give you those flakes that everybody likes. So I've added that in, and I'm adding in my pinch of salt now. Now, the pinch of salt is a tip from one of my aunts. Her roti is very soft, and she said that once you put in a little bit of salt, it helps to keep the roti very soft. I've seen people add in like a pinch of sugar before. I've seen people do nothing. But for us, this works. And if you guys have a different way and you want to share it, please feel free to. All right. So at this point, I'm just going to give it a quick little mix just to get all the dried ingredients all combined. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a little bit of my oil, just a little drizzle, maybe about a teaspoon of oil. And I'm just going to get it into the dough here. This is also going to help keep the roti soft. Again, a lot of people don't do this, but I like to do it just to help keep the dough nice and soft. And I'm going to mix it all together, try to get the oil nice and combined. And just quick to mention, as we're cooking the roti, some people like to use ghee. Some people like to use the Crisco or the vegetable shortening. Different kinds of oil. I'm using olive oil today, but you can use coconut oil, vegetable oil, canola oil. You can even use butter, whatever you want. I know the ghee and the butter make it just a little bit more rich and fattening, but it's totally up to you and your preferences and what you might like. So is everybody good with the mixing of all the dried ingredients and stuff? I see someone who has a hand up. Yeah.
I have a question. I'm actually not using my fingers.
Okay.
I'm using a whisk. Should I use my hand instead of the whisk?
Yes, so you can use your the whisk just to mix up all of these ingredients now. But once we add in the water, I would definitely move to your hands so this way you can get them a little better.
I make dumplings, so I know that part. Got you. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, so mine's all mixed up. I see another hand up. If you want to unmute.
Quick question. If you're using ghee, is it the same measurement?
Yeah, if you're going to use the ghee, you'd put like just a little teaspoon, a little pinch of it into the dough as well. And when you're going to oil the roti, you just have to make sure the ghee's melted as well. Melted or softened.
Okay, I'm gonna share you my ghee. Is this good enough? Like,
Yeah, that's perfect. You don't have to melt it at all. That'll work.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, you gotta tell us what this ghee thing is. What is ghee?
So if you guys don't know what ghee is, it's basically clarified butter. So it's the same butter that you buy from the grocery store, but it's like cooked down until you're just left with the actual fat. All of the water content from the butter is burned off, so it's a little more rich than like regular butter would be.
I picked it up at Costco, guys. It's available anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. You can get it. Before time, you could only get it like an Indian store, West Indian store, but now I see that they're selling it everywhere at your local grocery stores. All right, so if everybody's ready, we can start moving on with the water now. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask along the way and we can go back a couple steps. So I've got my water here. Like I said, it's like just under 2 cups of water, but I'm just gonna be adding in a little bit at a time. Especially if you guys are cutting the recipe in half and only using 1 cup of flour, definitely add in the water like a couple drops at a time. So this way you don't end up with too sticky of a dough. So I'm gonna start adding in, drizzling in some.
Does water temperature matter?
No, you guys can use regular lukewarm water is fine. Actually, like you wouldn't want to use ice water, just regular room temp water is good. The ice water will probably make the roti a little bit stiff. So I'm gonna keep on adding in water a little bit at a time, and I'm gonna bring it up closer in a second to show you guys what the dough's looking like. But just take your time with this part because if it ends up being too sticky, it's not like an end all be all. You just have to add in extra dried flour. But if you're not trying to make like 5 to 6 roti tonight, then be careful with the water. So this is what it's looking like right now. It's pretty crumbly and like shaggy looking. So I still have to add in a little bit more. But that's why we're drizzling it in so we can gauge how much we're going to use. So just out of curiosity, you guys can feel free to unmute. Is anybody, is most everybody here like not knowing how to make roti normally, or do you know how to make it and you just wanted to see? I'm just curious.
Improving my roti skills.
We don't know at all, but we love roti.
I don't. I would how you make.
Okay.
My sourdough roti never swells, so I'm gonna try.
Yeah, sourdough roti takes a lot of practice, in my opinion. I've been making the oil roti since I was 8 years old. That one was easiest for me. But the sourdough roti for a long time it didn't swell. But again, that's a whole different set of steps and stuff. So this is what I've got right now. It's a little bit sticky on my hands just because we haven't kneaded it yet. But once it's coming together and you just have a little bit stick in your hand, that's how you know you've added in enough water. So I'm left with about a cup of water. So for 2 cups of flour, you're going to use almost a cup of water. maybe just over a cup. I always say it in my videos, the water is gonna it's gonna vary depending on the type of flour you use, how long the flour's been sitting on the shelf, that kind of stuff. Because flour does have moisture even though it's a little dry. Now, I'm gonna take a little bit of dried flour and just put it around the side of the bowl, just a little pinch. And using like the back of your hand here, you can scrape the side of the bowl, and that's how you're gonna get the bowl nice and clean.
Could you zoom up on your bowl again? I just want to see what your
Yeah.
flour looks like, please.
So it's like a little bit sticky, a little shaggy looking, just because we haven't kneaded it yet.
Hi, Nicole, by the way. It's nice to see you.
Hi, Aminta. I have my daughter here who wants to cook, by the way, and this is what's happening next to me in case you guys needed entertainment.
You're doing a good job.
That is a lovely roti I'm gonna have to clean up in a bit.
Okay, what now?
All right. So for the most part, is everybody's like dough together and just a little bit sticky?
I need a little bit more time. Do we just continue adding water until it's a full dough? Because mine is still grainy.
Yeah, just keep on drizzling in a little bit of water at a time.
Okay.
This is kind of thick. We
No,
add more too much water.
That looks perfect.
Oh,
Look
Yeah.
at you.
Mine is sort of the same. You see it's sticking in my hand a little bit?
Okay.
I'll show you guys how to get like that little extra stickiness off in a second. Once everybody gets the dough together for the most part.
Yeah, because mine is not sticky anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm about to make some dumplings.
So the thing is, you want it a little bit sticky because what I've learned when you cook the roti is that the harder or stiffer you make the dough, you have to let it rest. I think that's why a lot of the older people say you have to let it soak for like this amount of time. For me, I just mix the roti, oil it, and I cook it right away. A lot of people, they let it rest. But I don't really let it rest. I just make the dough slightly softer and like don't knead it too hard, and then it'll be soft in the end.
So Matthew, the goal with the dry flour on the side of our bowl is to just make sure the bowl is completely like clear like yours.
Yeah, yeah. You're just gonna gather up like as much as you can. Sometimes a bowl is left a little messy, that's fine. But if you sprinkle a little dried flour, you'll be able to get it all off.
You said that dough should be a little sticky? A little?
Slightly sticky, yeah.
Slightly. Okay. Okay, good. I'm ready.
I have a question. I feel like my dough looks really dry. Or is it not?
No, that looks pretty good actually. Is it
It's a bit sticky.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna do
So-
a bowl check also.
Yeah. No,
Ooh, hold on a second. Does this look okay? Oh,
I have a
oops.
question.
Let me see if my bowl has sides and like my hand. Are you able to see my bowl, or do I probably have to come back?
yes, I see
Yeah.
you. That looks good as well.
Okay.
I have a question about mine as well.
Yeah, no problem. That looks good. It's all together into one. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
For anybody that's like moving the dough around right now and it feels like hard or like very stiff, you're gonna have to work in a little bit more water because when the roti's done, it's gonna end up being a little stiff as well.
Should the dough be completely smooth in this process? I'm here.
Yeah, that's looking good. So what we're gonna do, I'll move on to the next step since most of you guys like have it together now. You're gonna see that the roti has like, some little cracks. It's a little bit sticky onto my hand. So a couple things you can do. You can take a little bit of dried flour and sprinkle it on top. Or what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take a little drizzle of the oil that I have, and I'm gonna get it around the roti. And this is just gonna help smoothen it out. So this is the method you have to do when you're mixing it. You don't want to like fold it over and knead it like you're making bread. You want to like punch it down a little bit. So the thing is, when you fold the roti over onto itself, that's what like they say like forms the gluten in the roti. And when you form the gluten, that's why you have to let it rest. So this way it can relax back again. Because I know if you guys like roll out roti before and it's like coming back onto itself a little bit and not stretching properly, then that means it just has to rest a little bit.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If I want to do it the old way, how long would I let it rest?
Anywhere from like 30 minutes. I know some people let it sit for a couple hours, but I find like 30 minutes will give you a pretty good result regardless. And when you're picking it up, if you want to just slide your hand under the dough, and then you can flip it and do the same thing. Just try not to fold it over onto itself.
You have to push it down like you're doing it and don't fold.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're gonna notice like after a couple of minutes, like, I mean, there's a couple of doughs sticking in my hand a little bit, but when you start to grab it, it's not gonna stick as much anymore when you work with it a little. Because I can do this and it's not sticky.
So what if it's still sticky?
You can add in a little bit of dry flour, or if you want to put in a little touch of oil as well, that'll help it from stopping to like stick to your hands.
Okay.
So this is what you'll be left with after you mix it up. And this is just after you gather it up. You see it's not sticking in my hands anymore. That's also another way you could have kneaded it if you want to just keep like grabbing it and just moving it around in the bowl. That's another way you could have kneaded it.
I just wanted to pause to shout out two of our members who had this basically or helped to facilitate this idea to do a roti making workshop. So shout out to the program director for our art committee, Amelia Inderjeet, and to a member of South Queens Women's March and a member of the art committee, Angel Puran. So just shout out to them.
Thank you.
All right, so while everybody's like, finishing up mixing, I'm gonna give my hands a wash since I'm right here.
So are we gonna get other classes as to what to eat the oil roti with, like a buffet style, or just we're making a roti because I have nothing to eat it with?
Well, down the line, if you guys want to do this again, I'm definitely open to doing more like Zoom classes. So definitely. For now, roti and butter is really good.
We are about to order curry.
I've ordered some curry already. Curry.
Oh, the sardines are good.
Ew.
So what is everybody's favorite thing to eat with oil roti, usually?
Curry.
Curry chicken.
Yeah, I was gonna say duck curry, but yeah.
Oh, nice.
Chickpeas.
Yep.
I love baigan choka.
Yeah, that's a favorite. Whoever said pumpkin in the chat, that's my favorite combo as well.
Pumpkin is
Pumpkin
good too.
with the fine shrimp from like
Oh
Guyana.
yeah. Yep,
So good.
yep. And whoever said not Karaila, that's also one of my favorites. Karaila and roti is also good.
Folks have in the chat goat curry, fry aloo, not Karaila. I concur.
No, Karaila is really good. Yep. All right, so does everybody have their dough pulled together for the most part? We're good? All right. So again, if you have questions, just let me know. But I'm going to take a little bit of the dried flour that I have here. I'm going to sprinkle it on top of the roti. And this is just going to help me break it up into like equal sized pieces. So like I said, I'm going to try to get 4 roti out of this. So split it in half again. If you wanted to do 5 like smaller roti, you can do that. 3 like extra large roti, you can do that as well. So just push it through your hand and you can twist it and you'll get 1 like that. So I've got like a little tray next to me just so I can lay them in. If you have a plate, you can do that as well. Since it's a little bit of roti, you could also leave it in the bowl. Or if you have like your countertop clean, you can use that as well. We just want to lay these the dough balls down so this way we can get rid of the bowl now. All right. So if when you break up the dough balls, you don't want to like roll it onto itself and form it like too smooth. You can leave it a little like cracked up and stuff. It's okay. The reason I say that is because again, if you like mash it onto itself like you're making like a bake or a solder roti, you have to let it rest again, or else the gluten's gonna form in the flour. So I'm gonna take one of the dough pieces. I'm gonna dip it into my flour, and like this is the first part of making the oil roti. We're gonna oil them on the inside. This is how you're gonna get all those layers. So when you get it all floured up, you take like the first 2 fingers of one hand, hold it between the second 2 fingers of another hand, and you just pinch it like this. And that's just gonna open it out a little bit.
You dumped it in the flour a little bit? You coated it in the flour?
Mm-hmm.
And you did both sides in the flour? Flip, flip?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So this is what it should look like after you flatten it a little bit in your hands. You don't really have to do that step. That's just something like if you want to have less like rolling to do, it just helps a little bit. It also helps get like a rounder shape. If you guys, have to have round roti.
That's another level, friend. Okay, we're just step 1. Round roti would be amazing.
My first one came out looked like a triangle, but my grandmother gave me a little bit of props for it. So it was a funny family joke. See, try, child. Like, oh.
It's all about the taste, definitely. All right, so I've got it like this flattened out. I put it on my board. I sprinkled on a little bit of dried flour, and you're gonna get your rolling pin at this point. I'm gonna move this over. Can you guys see pretty clearly? Yeah. Okay. So then you just want to start, rolling it out and flattening it a little bit. And if you notice, like at any point you have to add on any dried flour to make it not stick, then you can definitely do that as well. So here's the big secret when you're making roti. a lot of people say at this step, it doesn't really matter like the shape that you do it, which is totally true. It could be whatever shape. You're still going to fold it onto itself and oil the inside. It just matters how you roll it out for the second step. But the thinner that you roll it out at this step, the more layers the roti is going to have and the more flaky the roti is going to be. If you make it on the thicker side, it's just going to have like one big pocket on the inside and not give you a whole set of like those leafy pieces and those like crumbles that a lot of us like when we're eating the roti.
I'm sorry, my roti looks like a continent. I'm trying to get it right. It's not coming out round.
That's perfectly fine. I'll show you guys for the second part how to keep the roti brown. All right, so mine is looking like this now. I would say it's maybe like a 1/8 of an inch thick, pretty thin. If anybody's pulling out their tape measures, I don't know. All right, so while everybody's doing that, I'm gonna start like going through the process. I still have 3 more to do, so I'll keep making them as I show you guys. But so this is just olive oil, like I said. If you want to use the butter, just melt some butter. If you want to use the ghee, you can do that as well. If you want to choose Crisco or the vegetable shortening, just have to melt that. You could also mix all of those together if you wanted to, whatever combo works for you. And I see a hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. So with regards to rolling it out, the end, does it matter if it's really thin or should it stay the same throughout the whole roti? You know, because when you like push down to the end, you like push down and it gets a little thinner.
So for this part, that doesn't matter too much. We're gonna end up folding this whole roti onto itself. And the second part, it'll matter because then that'll give more even cooking. But I'll show you guys for that second part what that looks like. So I'm gonna take the olive oil. I've got a brush. Like I said, you could dip your fingers in and rub it all over the roti as well. But I'll be a little civil today. I'll use the brush. And the amount of oil that you use on the inside is up to you. You could put a very thin layer. You can be very generous with it. Totally depends on your preferences. But you want to try to get it like all the way to the end of the roti as well.
So if you put more oil, what would that do for the roti?
It just adds a couple more calories, that's all.
Okay.
Some people say that when you add, like the more fat that you add into the roti, the softer it will be. To an extent, it's true, but I've never really seen that if you put like an excess amount of like oil or ghee that it makes it like super, super soft. So this is what it looks like after I oiled it. Ooh. You can see my oil's not like dripping off. I'm holding it, it's not dripping. But again, if you want to put a little extra, you can.
Is the oil on one side or both?
No, it's all over. Oh, just one side on the front, yeah. Okay, so once you get that layer of oil on, you're gonna grab some dried flour in your hand and you're just gonna sprinkle it all over the roti. So what this is gonna do, it's gonna like mix with that oil inside, and when you go to cook it, that's what gives you all those layers inside. It's like separating the roti a little bit. So I'm gonna grab a knife real quick. I'm gonna show you a couple ways that you can fold this roti up.
So it's a very thin layer of sprinkled dry flour. Can you bring yours to the screen, please?
Yeah. Pretty thin layer.
Thank you.
Yeah. So is everybody good to, we're at this step with the oil and the flour? Or somewhat?
Yes.
Okay. So there's lots of different ways that people fold it up onto itself. If you want to do it like the square way where you like fold it onto itself and fold it again and fold it up a couple times, you can do that. But usually that ends up like with the square roti, which doesn't matter, it doesn't affect the taste. But this is the way I do it pretty much at home. Just take a knife And I'll show you guys. From the middle of the roti, you want to cut out with the knife. And this is like an easier way. This is not the way that my grandmother taught me how to make it. I'm going to show you guys how she makes it. It's a little more complicated the way she folds it. So what you got to do for this step is you just have to take the roti, one end, and start folding it over onto itself. And what we're trying to get here is like a cone. So once you get to that edge, you're going to leave a little bit of that edge out. So you see that little edge? This is like the cone side of it. So I'm going to take that edge and I'm going to stuff it into the bottom of the roti, and you're going to stick it all the way in. And all these extra like edges, you just want to fold it up. Stick it all the way in. And you're going to be left with like this shape for right now. So what you need to do now is take that top piece and push it in as well. And you're going to be left with this. So what you can do when you roll them out like this, you can put a little bit of oil down on a tray or a plate, or you can sprinkle some dried flour and just lay it down so this way it doesn't stick by the time you're ready to cook it. And I'm going to get a piece of paper towel and I'm going to put some water on it and squeeze it out so this way I can put it on top of the roti and it doesn't dry out the dough. If you have like a cloth or a clean like tea towel or something like that, you can moisten it and put it on top as well. So this way you can get it like this. So while everybody's working on it, if you guys want to ask questions, feel free.
Does the temperature on that water on that paper towel matter?
No, doesn't matter at all.
So you put flour on the surface before you put down the rolled up ball?
Yeah. After you put the oil, just a little sprinkle of flour and then you can fold it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start my second one now. If you guys are still working, just take your time. I'll show you guys some other ways that you can roll them up. If you have a spoon and you wanted to put the oil on and spread it that way, you could also do that. So for anybody that like wanted to see again, you oil it, sprinkle a little dried flour, and I'm going to show you guys the way that my grandmother taught me how to roll it up. So for her, you're going to cut from almost the bottom. You're just going to leave a little bit left at the bottom, but you're going to cut all the way up like this. And for anybody that's seen their grandmothers make roti, half the time they're not using a knife or anything like that. They'll take like their finger, the nail piece, and they'll cut it that way. But obviously we want to try to use like a knife or something else. But what she used to do is you basically take from the middle and you fold it over onto itself. Take the middle and fold it onto itself. And do it like all the way around. So you're going to be left with this. And basically what this does, it's creating like another layer on the inside of the roti, so it makes it even more flaky. So you start at one end, just like the other one, and you roll it up. Now, when you're rolling the roti as well, you don't want to roll it like super tight, because when you do that, it doesn't really give those layers like enough room to separate when it's cooking. So when you're rolling it, you want to roll it enough, but also leave it a little loose so it has some like room to breathe when it goes on the stove. So when you get it to like this cinnamon roll looking shape, and you have that that little piece at the end, you're gonna fold it up onto that piece that's open, and you're gonna stick it in. And all these extra pieces, you can gather them up. You can gather them up like this, and just press all the way in. And this is how I was taught to oil a roti.
Can you show that again with your next one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Has anyone ever had a sugar roti? No?
Love sugar roti.
Yep. Every time we used to have roti growing up, our grandmother would take one of the extra dough balls and you fill it with actual sugar like this. Fill it up, gather it up, and you roll it out. And that was like our little snack before like the actual food was done. Really good.
Matthew, somebody's asking in the chat, is the way to make oil roti similar to sada roti?
The sada roti is like a little more simple. Like it's just the baking powder and the flour, and then you mix it with water. And then you have to let the sada roti rest. That's the trick with it. When you mix the dough, you have to let it rest for, I'll let it rest anywhere from like an hour to 2 hours, because the more you let it rest after mixing, the more like soft the roti ends up coming out, and it'll swell. If you cook it right away, it ends up like it just doesn't swell. I don't know. It's probably a me problem, but the more you let it rest, I've seen that it swells more. We're a little divided in my family. My mom and my sister love the sada roti, and my dad and I, we like the oil roti more. All right, so
I'd like to request the sada roti how to swell class.
Okay. You guys got it. All right, so I'm going to show you all how to oil it one more time. Somebody was asking to repeat that step. So just get your oil all over it. Brush it out as best as possible. And I'm going to sprinkle some of that dried flour on it again. And like I said before, you're going to leave a little bit at the edge, and you're going to go up from there just to get it cut. And you take a piece of the edge in the middle and you fold it over onto itself. I'm trying to show you guys with one hand, but yeah. So you get it folded over onto itself like that. And then you take one end and you just go ahead and you roll it up. And when you get this little piece, you have that open edge, you're going to gather it around and stick it on the top. And stick it in like that. And you gather up everything and you push it in. And when you do that, you're going to be left with this.
Some of us are curious.
But also my favorite kind of roti, hands down, is dal puri. I prefer that over any other kind of roti.
So
when I roll mine and then push it in the middle, I think mine might have been too long because it's kind of flopped over.
That's fine. Sometimes it doesn't like sometimes when you roll it out, it doesn't like sit up straight. So when you go to push it in, it like flops over or it ends up being like a different shape, but it's fine. Once you like roll it in the middle and it has a couple layers, it'll still, you know, swell on the stove.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna
So
roll out.
Minta, I think what Matthew is telling us is he's gonna come back for a Jalpuri class, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna roll out my last one. I'm gonna show you guys another way that you can like fold it over. And this one's a little more simple.
Huh?
All right, so this one, same steps as before. You're gonna oil it up, and you're gonna put the dried flour on. All right, so for this one, this is how it looks just like the others. But for this one, what you're gonna want to do is start to fold it onto itself, like this. And you just keep folding it up. And you're gonna be left with that. So what you have to do for this one is just start at an edge and you're basically gonna fold it onto itself like this. And you're
That's
gonna be. Did someone unmute?
I said that's much easier.
Yeah. So this one, you're just gonna put it over onto itself again and push it in. You're pretty much the same shape you end up with. So I want to show you guys something. This one right here was the first one that I oiled. So it's been just a couple of minutes now, but when you press it in, it stays and it like flattens. It doesn't like retract or come back out onto itself. That means like the dough's like nice and relaxed enough to cook. This is the one that I just went ahead and rolled out. So you can see it has like just a little bit of bounce to it. That means like I worked with the gluten a little, it's a little tougher. So that was like my grandmother's rationale when she would make roti. She said that by the time you get to the last roti, that first roti is ready to cook already. It's already relaxed and ready to cook. So while you guys are finishing up the like rolling, I'm gonna heat up my tawa or the pan that we're gonna use.
Should we wait till we're on our last dough to do that as well, or should we all put on our tawa?
And what temperature?
Is he frozen? Think we lost him.
Hi, Matthew. I think you are frozen or your screen is frozen. He's definitely frozen. Oh, I think he just, uh-oh. I'm sure he'll rejoin. I'm sure he'll rejoin. Don't worry. We won't be left to our own devices. It would be really bad if he took us to this point and was like, all right, that's it, I'm done. Anyway.
He's like, y'all got this. I trust you.
Refer to his YouTube channel at this point.
Exactly.
Welcome back, Matthew. Matthew, you're muted.
Can everybody hear me now? Good. Okay. All right. So I'm just waiting a couple of minutes for the stove to heat up, and then we'll move on. If anybody has questions, feel free to ask.
What temperature did you put your stove on? Is it medium?
Yeah, I have it on like a medium high heat just to get its temperature. You can always lower it if it ends up being a little too hot.
Can you explain again how you know the roti that are resting, how you know that it's like ready?
Yeah, so the first roti that I had started off with, I already flattened it out a bit, but you see like when I press on it, it like stays, it doesn't bounce back. It'll flatten pretty easy. It's not stretching back onto itself every time I move it. But this is the one that I did it a couple of minutes ago at this point, but when you press on it, you'll feel that it's like a little more bouncy than the first one. That means like the gluten didn't relax yet.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. Does everybody want me to continue on to the cooking now? Or do we want to wait a couple of seconds?
Oh, my pan is hot.
Okay.
Were we supposed to have flattened it?
No. I sort of just did this out of habit. I didn't show you guys, but I was just flattening it as I was sitting here.
Okay.
You didn't turn it on.
No,
It's
because
not
I
on.
was.
What temperature do we want to have the pan on? Like what? Medium?
Like a medium high heat, yeah.
Medium.
All right, so I'm start the cooking process. So for this step, I might have to like shift the camera around a bit because the stove's like behind me, but I'll show you guys like an up close to get this rolled out. So you're gonna start off with the first dough ball that you just made. I flattened it out a little bit, and I'm gonna take a little bit of that same dried flour, get it onto my board. And you know what? I'm gonna change my camera right now because you guys wanted to see how to get it round, so I'll show you guys. Let me try to get it a little closer. Can everybody see it pretty up close?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I got the flour onto it, flatten it out just a bit. And so what you want to do is you want to sort of like roll the sides out first before you just go in the middle and you start rolling it like that. So just move the rolling pin like towards the sides. And then if you really want to get it round, all you'll do is rotate it a little bit to the side like that. You don't want to really flip it over. But if you're fine with flipping it over, it doesn't matter the shape for you, that's cool.
Did you put any flour on it?
Yeah,
before you
I
pulled it
did.
out?
Yep. And you want to use like a rocking motion almost when you're doing it, like with your hands, something like that. So for this step, don't make the roti super, super thin. You want it to have a little bit of, you still want it to be rolled out pretty well, but you don't want it to be super, super thin, or else the roti tends to get like too crispy and dries out when it's done. So this is what mine looks like. And you can see it's pretty thin. It's not really like a puri though, where when you put your hand through it, you see your
Dad,
entire.
I can put windshield washer fluid in your car in the morning. You know, I'm a little tomboy. I can change.
Hi, Vanessa. I think you're unmuted. I hope you're not putting windshield wiper fluid on the roti.
On the roti.
We using oil at this rollout stage or just flour?
No, this is just for the flour because we already put the oil on the inside.
Okay.
I'm just gonna wait a couple seconds for my towel to cool down a bit.
Washing my
It's
roti.
been heating up for a while now. So what else is everybody eating with this roti tonight? Nothing, no butter, curry, nothing.
I have mango curry.
Okay, nice.
Curry beef.
Okay.
I got some chicken curry.
Nice. That's definitely a favorite, chicken curry. All right, so I'm gonna move over to the stove now and show you guys. Can everybody see that for the most part? So my towel is smoking up a lot just because I had it heating up for a little too long, but it's cooling down now. So, all right, so I'm gonna move on to like the cooking process now. For this step, you want to make sure to get that oil that you had. For anybody asking the temperature, it's on a medium high heat. And so the oil that we had with the brush, you want that again. Like I said, if you want to oil it with like ghee, butter, Crisco, anything like that, that's good. So I have that there. And for me, my tawa is pretty non-stick because we've used it for a while now. If your tawa like sticks before you put anything on, maybe put a little bit of oil. But I'm just gonna go ahead and put this one on for now. And you're gonna wait maybe like 30 seconds if it's hot enough, just until you see it to dry out a little bit. So once you see the top like dries out slightly, it won't be super white. You can go ahead and flip it. Mine's already a little brown only because the tawa was a little too hot. You'll see the next one, so it'll take a little longer to cook. And as soon as you flip it, get a little bit of oil on it. Again, if you wanted to use like a spoon for this step, you can do that. If you wanted to use a the bottom of like a flat cup, or you can use a piece of paper towel. anything will work. And you see that it's starting to swell a little bit. Those are like those air bubbles that we got when we were folding it onto itself. And flip it again. And mine's already getting pretty crispy. And that's the thing too, if you like a very crispy roti and brown, definitely cook it for longer and on a higher heat. But if you're somebody that likes more of a soft and like delicate, flaky, more like white roti, then definitely cook it on lower heat. And you could press it down if you want. You see that it's starting to rise a little bit. And for me, this one is done. But again, take your time with it because my towel is just like really hot. So I'm gonna move you all over here. Right here, I have a clean kitchen towel and I'm gonna get it down there. So this is like the clapping step. If you wanted to put it in a mug and shake it up like clothes or a bowl, you can do that. If you wanted to wrap up the towel and clap it that way, you can do that. But I'll show you guys like the old fashioned way. You pick it up and you start to clap it. Make sure when you go to clap it, you fold it in half and you clap it from the ends in. And this is what you're going to be left with. And for anybody who likes like really crispy roti, this one right here was perfect for that. And you could just fold it onto itself and you can put it like in a plate. You could put it in a bowl lined with like some paper towels and like a kitchen towel just to keep them warm and insulated. So I'm going to take you all back to where I was rolling it out. And I'm going to roll out some more. If you guys have any questions about the whole cooking process, feel free to ask as we go. And this is how soft they've gotten once you let them rest just a little bit, nice and soft.
Okay, I'm still on the towel process, Matthew. So
Yeah.
once you flip it, I kind of looked away. So I put it down, I put the oil on the roti, and then I flipped it. Do I put oil again and then flip it again? How many flips do we do?
Yeah,
Okay.
you do 2 flips, and for each flip, you do a layer of oil. And as you're rolling it out, if you need like some more dried flour like sprinkled onto it, you can go ahead and just sprinkle a little on. And for who was asking me about like the edges of the roti when you're rolling it, towards the end when it's pretty much flat, you're just going to take your rolling pin and you can just go along the edges and spread those out a little bit. Then you're going to be left with this. All right, I'm going to take you all back again. If you guys don't want a lot of mess in your kitchen, I don't really recommend clapping it with your actual hands. Put it in like a mug and it won't like fly everywhere. But if that's fine for you, then you can go ahead and do it with your hands.
Can you show us how you would do it with a mug, please?
Sure, I can. So I don't have a mug, but you can use a dish with like a lid. I'll show you guys what that looks like. So once the roti gets a little dry, you flip it over. Get some oil on there. And again, another misconception is people think that if you put like more oil on it now, it'll swell up and cook more. But I don't really like when you're eating roti and you feel it like very oily all over your fingers. So as you can see, it's like puffing up a good amount. It's nice and fluffy. So this one is done.
Hey Matthew, I have a question.
Yep.
So I'm a nutritionist and I'm always trying to find to make our like homemade or like home cooked meals a healthier version. How would you make this? What ingredients would you either swap or add to make it healthier?
Okay, so we actually used to do like a healthier version of roti because in our house we don't always cook, you know, the regular stuff with the full amount of oil and full amount of sugar. We make, you know, cuts where we can. I'm just taking this off. But what we used to do, if you want to use the whole wheat flour, you can use all whole wheat flour to make it. The texture is slightly different, but it ends up being a pretty good product in the end. We also used to mix the whole wheat and the regular white flour as well, just in case you want to make it a little lighter too. You can also cut down on the amount of oil. Like you can oil the inside, and when you put it on the tawa, you don't have to oil it as much as I did, and I still did it pretty light. Some people don't even oil the roti at all when they put it on the tawa. That's another way you can make it a little more healthy. All right, so that one was done, and I'm not gonna clap it. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in this dish. So I'm gonna grab it, put it in there. And again, if you have like a mug with the lid, you put it in there, or like a big Tupperware dish or anything like that will work, but you're just gonna shake it up as best as you can. And try to like feel it like beating the sides of the bowl so this way it can break up.
Matthew, why do you have to shake it like that? Why can't you just leave it folded?
So when you make oil roti, you have to like clap it or break it up a little bit to release the air within the roti. Because once you make those layers and it cooks, the air is like trapped inside. So if you were to just serve it as is, it'll be soft for a couple of minutes, but then it's going to end up being tough because you never release the air out of it.
Thank you.
No problem. So you're going to see that you're going to be left with like this nice soft flaky roti.
This one you tapped your roti on the roti with your bare hands. Wasn't the roti, at least my issue, wasn't the roti a little bit too hot for your hands? Like I've seen relatives do it like it's nothing, and then like as a kid I did, and my hands are on fire. So
well, so the thing is when you're clapping it, let me try to put it back to my face how it was before. Right. Yeah, so the thing is when you're going to clap the roti, you don't want to like pick it up and keep it in your hands because then the heat you're gonna feel it. What I noticed like a lot of like our grandmothers do is when they clap it, because like my grandmother takes it right off the stove with her bare hand, takes it
Yep.
off the stove, takes
Yep.
it and claps as she goes to the sink. So well, basically what's happening is it's not sitting in her hand. They're just so like
Okay.
quick with it that it keeps on moving. And by the time she clapped it up, there's a bowl sitting there just to toss it in the bowl.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't really have that method that she has because it's like one swift motion. She claps it and it's like flying in her hand. And she walks to the sink, puts it in a bowl, and she starts the next one.
Okay.
So while you guys are working on those, I'm gonna continue rolling. I have 2 more left here. So
Should we lower the heat on the stove while we're like going through the process?
yeah, maybe a little bit because like mine was getting a little too smoky over there as well. Roti is just a lot of practice, especially with the cooking part, because sometimes, you know, by the time you go to roll another one, the pot's too hot or whatever the case is, so you have to just regulate it a little bit. If you wanted to as well, before you like as you put one on the stove, while it's like cooking and it's on like a moderated heat, you can roll out the other one. So by the time you're done with that, you can just toss the other one on. How's everybody doing with the cooking process so far? Pretty good?
Yes, pretty good.
Okay, good. So this is another one that just came off the stove. It's a little lighter for anybody who doesn't like it super crispy. Look at how soft and flaky that one is.
Look, Matthew, I have your youngest student here with her own little veil now.
Look at that. I've seen them selling those mini rolling pins in like the West Indian stores now.
Yeah, that's exactly where we got it.
So Matthew, I clapped and it's not looking as flaky as it should.
Do you want to show me which what it ended up looking like? Is it a little too like stiff, like the layers didn't release?
Can you see me?
Now I can.
Okay, can you see me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I took a piece off the taster, so excuse a little piece. It seems a little thick. I don't know.
It might need to roll out a little bit more. Yeah, but it looks pretty good. Maybe just clap it up a little bit more, just to tear it up a little bit. So I'm going to show you guys, this is that same clean like tea towel that I had. If you wrap it up inside and fold it up, you can clap it that way as well. And you don't make like, as much mess. Keeps it contained. And you also don't burn your.
I have another question.
Yep.
The part before we rolled it out and cooked it, if we let it sit out a little longer, would it have made a difference at all? Like, so like let's say if we're doing stuff in the house, like, hey, we're gonna let it sit for an hour before you roll. Does it any difference to the outcome?
Like I said before, some people say that it makes it like come out a little softer. Again, that just has to do with the resting.
Okay.
It doesn't truly make a difference from what I've seen, but I've done that before. You let it sit like, on the counter until you're done doing whatever else you have to do, and then you cook them.
Yeah.
Another good option is if you guys didn't want to cook all the rotis at once, you can definitely make all those dough balls, oil them, fold them up. And if you wanted to put them in like an airtight container in a single layer, you could just close that up and pop it in the fridge. And they can sit there for maybe like 2 to 3 days. And every time you want like a fresh roti, you just cook one. Or if you wanted to, you could freeze those as well. And every time you want one, you just pull one out and let it defrost for a couple hours. And then you can roll it out and cook it just the same way.
Oh, okay.
That's a pretty good tip if anybody else is like a student and you don't have time to do like all the mixing and then the rolling and stuff. At least you have a couple steps, done. So I'm just gonna clean up a little bit so I can show you guys the final product while everybody's finishing up here. Also, just out of curiosity, does everybody like these regular rolling pins that don't move, or do you like those like American style ones that move when you roll it?
I have the one that rolls and it moves when I roll it, and I do not like it at all. It just like it throws you off, and it's no good.
I never get around.
In my opinion.
Whoever was just showing their food, that looked really, really good. And look at that, that's the final. So also another tip, if you guys wanted to save the roti after you're done cooking it, what you could do is take a couple pieces of like wax paper or parchment paper, and once the rotis have fully cooled down, you can fold them up somewhat like this. I'll show you guys. Roll it in half and then roll it up. And you can wrap it in like the wax paper or parchment paper, and you can wrap them up individually and then stick them all in like a big Ziploc gallon size bag, and you can freeze it that way once they've cooled. That's another good way if you don't want to do any cooking, you just want to pull it out and pop it in the microwave. And I believe that's Aruna showing the roti. That looks really good as well. Looks nice and soft.
Matthew, can you just repeat once again what you were saying about how to store the roti?
Yeah, so you cook all your rotis out and you let them cool completely. Because you never really want to, freeze or refrigerate hot food. Let it cool completely, and then take each one and fold it or wrap it however you want. So sometimes I just fold it onto itself, or if you open it all the way out, you can fold it like a square almost, like this. And then you can wrap it up individually in some small pieces of like wax paper or parchment paper, and take all of the rotis that you individually wrapped and stick them in you could do an airtight container or a Ziploc bag, the freezer ones, and you can put it in the freezer, and that'll stay for maybe like longest it could stay for like 6 months. And it'll still be nice and soft when you heat it up in the microwave. That looks really good. I can't see some of the names, so I see you're showing me the rotis. They look really good, nice and soft. And if anybody's waiting around and is done making their roti, I definitely recommend taking like a piece off the roti when it's hot and slather some butter in it and snack on it. It's really good that way. Or tomorrow morning when they're a little like, hard and whatever, you can put it back on the tawa with some butter and make it like extra crispy. That with like a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or something, that's really good as well.
And roti has to be clapped when it's hot?
Yes. Once it comes off the stove right away, because when you let it cool, that's when it gets like tough and you can't really go back and clap it.
Okay.
At the end, if you all are okay with it, we'd love to get a group photo with everybody and their roti.
Definitely.
My last
Any-
one is on the stove.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions as you're going through the cooking process still, or? That also looks good. Who is that? Is that Sophia? The roti looks nice and soft.
How do you recommend we make it thinner?
Like the actual roti, just how to make it. So when you're rolling it out, you just have to make sure you continue rolling a bit. I know that sometimes when you roll it out, it tends to like go back onto itself. If it didn't like I said before, that whole thing with the resting, it'll go back out. So roll it out a little more if it's still stretching, and then put it onto the towel. And I didn't mention this before. I definitely should have mentioned it. Not everybody has a tawa. You can use any kind of flat pan that works.
My aunt told me is she's like, oh, you don't need a towel. I'm like, really?
Yeah, that's some people think like, oh, like the type of pan you're using makes a difference. And I mean, I've used pretty much every type of flat pan you can imagine. You can even use like a cast iron pan, it'll still work.
Do they sell towels? I assume mostly like in Queens and stuff, or do you have to order one on Amazon?
So nowadays they actually do have it online. There's a company called Victoria Cookware, and they sell like that. This is actually where my towel is from, because I did videos with them. It's the same like cast iron tawa that you would normally get from like Liberty or like in Queens. I don't like using those silver looking tawas because those are like the ones made out of aluminum. I don't really like the way that they carry the heat. I like the cast iron ones.
Okay.
I bought a cast iron one on Amazon.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Just got it just for this class.
And they also have like that same brand, Victoria Cookware. They have the one with the handle. It's still a flat shallow pan, and that one also works very well. Some of my aunts have that one.
On the last time I made roti, it came out, it was kind of chewy, but not in a good way. Were you able to know like where I went wrong that time versus like why it's good now?
So sometimes the roti ends up being chewy, like if you use because I've made the mistake before. Sometimes if you use like extra hot water, like from the tea kettle or something,
Okay.
it sort of like cooks the flour when
Okay.
so when you do that, it ends up being chewy and it never softens back. Or it could have just happened if the dough like we had a couple of minutes of the dough resting, as we were working. But sometimes if you're working like very quick and you go start rolling right away, sometimes it'll just be a little too, a little too tough.
Okay. So needed more rest time.
Definitely, it could have been that too.
Okay, thanks.
If you guys are ever like cooking in the kitchen and you're making like, say you're making like curry and roti or something, I recommend that you mix the roti, oil it off, make the balls and leave it aside. And that'll give it like really good rest time and you're not wasting any time. Because while you do that, you can make your curry or the vegetable you're cooking. And then when that's boiling on the stove, you can start the cooking process. Who is by a show of hands, who is clapping the roti with their bare hands, or were you using mugs for the most part?
You shouldn't.
Yeah.
We started with a little clap and then we were just like, no.
Whoever's showing the good as well.
I did. My hands were burning.
My grandmother also says like clapping roti is not really the best for your hands because I'm sure you guys have heard the older Guyanese people say when you clap the roti with your bare hands, that's how you end up getting like, the arthritis and that kind of stuff. So
my grandma used to say afterwards, she's like, after you clap roti, do not wash dishes or like cold because it's the same thing. Like you could get like a heat stroke or something. My grandma used to always scare me into that. I would never. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, when we were younger, if we were like cooking, like if it was like especially during summer and you're standing in front of that hot stove for a while, they used to say like don't go shower and stuff like that too. Just I don't know, I guess the difference in temperatures, but yeah, don't try not to wash your hands because I do believe that that's true. That's the best part. If you finish cooking and your hands are dirty, you can just go straight to eating. Leave the mess for later, or have somebody else clean it up.
I think Felicia and Donna have their hands raised, but maybe that's because they clap the roti with their bare hands. Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Also, I just want to take a quick moment. I'm sure most of you guys on here are already subscribed to my YouTube channel, but if you're not and you just want to click that red subscribe button under Matthew's Guyanese Cooking, feel free to do that. It would be greatly appreciated. And for anybody who already did subscribe, I want to thank you all because I did pass 100,000 subscribers a little while ago. Thank you. But like I said, I am in medical school right now, so I didn't really get to do like, the pictures and the celebration for that yet. But I will be doing a video when time permits to show you guys like the plaque that I got and things like that.
Are we ready to take a group photo with our rotis? Maybe? Okay. I gotta, oh my God. Somebody wrote, if y'all can make roti, y'all can get married now. Funny.
I don't know if you can see. Is this you? Is this your page?
Yeah, that's me.
Subscribe.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Are we
Are
ready
you
to show
taking the
our rotis?
photo?
Yeah, so we have to show our rotis, everybody. Show us your rotis, and maybe we could say on 3, we could say roti.
My camera's so sad.
Creative over here. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Roti. Okay. Everyone's rotis look so amazing.
Looks great.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you
That
all
was
so
fun.
much for joining
Thank you so
us.
much.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and thank you for allowing us to have questions and being interactive.
No
You were
problem. No
amazing.
problem. Thank you.
And Matthew, we look forward to seeing you when you're done school. We need some more classes, of course.
Yes. Thank you. Definitely. I'm
Thank,
looking.
thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew, on behalf of all of us at South Quintumes March, we just wanted to say we're so grateful. And thank you to everybody who joined us, who's been part. This is like your first South Quintumes March event. Please continue to follow our work. Please continue to join us. However you decide to. We have so many different programs, and we're definitely going to be doing this sort of thing again. It was so amazing. And Matthew, we're such an amazing facilitator. Thank you for your patience, for your love, for your insight, for the like little tidbits and anecdotes and things like that. We're really, really grateful.
No
So
problem.
with
Thank you guys for having me, and thanks for following along. I see some people in the comments are asking for the recording. We're gonna try to get that recorded, and I'll try to post it on my channel as well.
yes,
Great.
definitely share the recording, and we'll share it with Matthew as well.
All right, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
No problem.